Hello everyone. This is John Jenkins, and I'm bringing you my video in which I detail the top five male and female singing groups of the 1990s. And as you know, I was born 1985. I'm at the tail end of the of Generation X, so I'm not a millennial. I grew up in the 90s listening to the B96, B96 top 96 of 1998, 1999. I mean, that was it for me. B96. I wasn't into V103 or you know uh, even I forgot what the other R&B what the other sort of black music station was. There was it might have been V103. I don't think so, but there was another competing black music station. Uh, all my picks aren't black. You know, it's just I guess it's just my taste in music. But yeah. Um, so let's get into it. Okay, I'll do the females first. So uh, top five female singers singing groups, and I should let you know now that I excluded uh, I excluded um, hip hop music. I'll do a different setup for hip hop music uh, groups and singers because I think that's a category all its own. So I didn't want to, because if I included hip hop, then this whole thing would just be hip hop artists, and I wasn't into that. So yeah. So here we go. First, the female singers, singing groups of the 1990s. I'll start from one and then go to five. And obviously, anybody who grew up in the 90s, you already know the first one is going to be number one for the 1990s is Mariah Carey, and just the most versatile, talented, uh, aesthetically pleasing singer of the entire decade. I had when I was in college, I purchased Mariah Carey's greatest hits, the two CD set, and just I mean, Mariah Carey in the '90s, not in the '90s, was consistently churning out hits. I mean, she, to a certain extent, Whitney Houston was churning out hits as well, but I mean, if if Whitney Houston was the Colts, then Mariah Carey would be the Patriots. I mean, it's Mariah Carey not only was churning out the hits, but they were just on a whole nother level. Sweetheart, even and Butterfly, that was good. Honey, and even her collaboration with Whitney Houston, she just dominated that song. And Whitney Houston was hanging on for dear life, but she couldn't catch up to Mariah Carey. So Mariah Carey is number one, and uh, number two is Cut Close. You probably don't know who this group is. I didn't know who they were either until 2015. Basically, if you ever back in the 90s, I was big into Keith Sweat, and if you listen to his two most famous songs from the 90s, which were Nobody and Twisted, in both videos, uh, Cut Close is singing the background vocals. Actually, in Twisted, it's Cut Close as singing the background vocals, and in Nobody, it's just Athena Cage singing the background vocals. And if you listen to Nobody, I mean, if you listen to Nobody today, Athena Cage. I mean, she's such an excellent singer. She makes Keith Sweat look like an idiot on that song. I mean, she just outperforms him in every manner. So yeah, so I was gonna just say Athena Cage as the second greatest singer of 1990s, but the group itself, if you, I love the Cut Close song I like and Surrender. The whole group was good together, and the other two never made it, just like the other members of Destiny's Child never made it. But I mean, Cut Close was. I didn't know about Cut Close until 2015, but listening to them now, they were at least the second best group of 2000 of the 1990s. And I'm starting to see now that I've actually been exposed to the non B96 side of R&B and especially hip hop. I'm starting to see that the truth, which is that the most talented artists of the 1990s barely made any money at all. Most of the most talented and skilled artists, never made as much money as as basically Puff Daddy and Madonna. You know, Puff Daddy and Madonna and maybe Black Eyed Peas and a few other people made all the money in the 1990s, but the most talented and best people never made any money. And I put Tamia. Tamia is my number three, the third best singer slash group of the 1990s, and I put her on for a specific reason, which was that she made "So Into You," which I still regard as the single best song ever made. I believe it's the best song ever made. And she had another song, the first single off her album, which was "Imagination," and that was a good song too. Uh, you know, as far as I can tell, she just had a good songwriter for that one song, which was "So Into You." Or she just got lucky because the quality of her songs is really low, but just one of her songs is the best song I've ever heard in my life. And when I was in college, just listening to that song would just fill me with goosebumps. Sort of the way you feel when you listen to Aaliyah and you know uh, and it's good that I bring up Aaliyah's name now because uh, Aaliyah's not on the list, and she's not an honorable mention either. So I know people are gonna say, why would you put Tamia on the list and not Aaliyah? I mean that's blasphemy for if you're a black girl who grew up in the '90s, like to snub Aaliyah from the list is like that's that's you know that's a capital punishment type offense. But it was a very specific reason, which was that Aaliyah has some good songs. And I'm not judging her because of her situation with R. Kelly. I'll get to R. Kelly in a second, because he also has something to do with this list. But I just had to wait it too. Aaliyah had some great songs, which were very trendy, very stylish and hip. Uh, but "So Into You" is in my opinion the best song ever made. So I mean, I've had an Aaliyah album. I had "I Care for You" when I was in college. I love "At Your Best," "One in a Million." Uh, I don't know what to tell you. Uh, Down with the Click, and a whole host of others. But uh, yeah, I mean, they're not the best songs I've ever heard. They fill you with emotion. Let me know, let me know. Yeah, that really gets to you. But you know, just pretty much everything about "So Into You" is just perfect. I mean, uh, Aaliyah's music approaches perfection. She had a lot of hits, but it doesn't. It's not the best. And the next on the list, number four, the fourth greatest singer of the 1990s, Mary J. Blige. And and I know what you guys are saying. She wasn't a capital singer. She probably couldn't even get into the same clubs that Mariah Carey could get into, or whatever. But there's only, I mean, the Mariah Careys of the industry are outnumbered on this list. I've only got one Mariah Carey, and the other four are really lower tier as far as financial success and notoriety. Very few people knew who Cut Close was or even cared who Cut Close was, Athena Cage, Tamia, and Mary J. Blige. But I mean, Mary J. Blige was just a. I wouldn't say that she was the perfect singer because you know she she went a little bit. She was you know she did the butch thing a lot, and it kind of got annoying because she's like this 5'4" uh, little woman, and but she's just very soulful, and her melodies and her songs are very appealing emotionally. Not as good as not as good as Aaliyah in striking an emotion, but her music appeals to you more on an intellectual level, sort of like what how I used to feel about Lauryn Hill and spoiler alert, Lauryn Hill and Erica Badu are not on this list. The more conscious Black Power singers. Uh, uh, I I used to be into the sort of Fuji's, Erica Badu, things of that nature. Alicia Keys. I used to be into that conscious sort of responsible or Black Power 2.0 type singers. But as I got more mature and I started to look at these people, you know you know most of it was just most of that era was just to sell records. They didn't really believe in that, and most of what they were saying did not have much logical or even inspirational merit to it. It was just saying stuff to uh, make the to basically to basically letting us down gently. You know, we were filled with a whole bunch of stories about how we were going to change the world by whining about everything and whining about everything while actively supporting the things that we were supposedly hating. And you know, I guess the Fugees, Erica Badu, Alicia Keys were there. Common, you know, John Legend. They were just there to let us down gently and inform us that if we wanted to do something with our lives, then we were gonna have to stop whining and get up and do it, and you know, stop hiding behind white America when it's time to for our stop hiding behind white America to get out of our responsibilities, and then turning around and saying, "Oh, white people are responsible for slavery and things like that." So for that reason, you know, I didn't put Erica Badu or Lauryn Hill, Alicia Keys on the list, or you know, John Legend, Common, you know, or if for that uh, matter, Most Def. Even though I'm not doing rappers, he probably won't be on my rappers list. But for that, for Mary J. Blige, she was just a really soulful singer, and her melodies were great. She had great hooks. I can love you better than she can. The hook was great. The melody was great. The chorus was great. And I loved her that she was doing stuff with Lil Kim. So yeah. And last on the list, last but not least, the fifth greatest singer of the 1990s slash group is a tie between Brandy and Monica. And the reason why I put it as a tie was because, I mean, they, you know, they were equally as good. They were equally as good, and it really culminated, in the fact that they did "The Boy Is Mine," which is definitely my favorite song from both of them. So they collaborated on their what turned out to be their best song, and their songs are of equal quality. I mean, I uh, Brandy's songs are more. I'm not gonna lie, Brandy was more successful than Monica because her songs. She thinks like a, she thinks like a 12-year-old girl, so uh, uh, her songs, appeal to 12-year-old girls. I was probably 13 when I first heard Brandy, so her songs definitely appealed to me. But and you know, Monica's songs are a little bit less. Uh, they're a little bit less sugary, but they appeal to you more on an intellectual level. But I if you weigh in, sort of just one of those days versus almost doesn't count. And obviously, you can tell that almost doesn't count was not written by Brandy. You can tell just by listening to it. But if you weigh uh, like this and like that, against sitting up in my room, and things of that nature, you know, Brandy is very appealing on an auditory level. The hooks, the hooks are better. The sounds are better, you know. But but Monica's songs are more snappy. So and I equate them as the same because you know because uh, they had equal value. People push Brandy. I guess people push Brandy. I guess because uh, she was definitely she had more of a model appearance, whereas looks more like Monica looks more like Madam C.J. Walker, whereas Brandy looks more like Iman. So it so they thought, oh, this will appeal to the young boys. And yeah, she was under 18 when she got in, just like Aaliyah. Uh, but so they're the songs, Brandy's songs are more appealing on a primal level, but they're equally as good as when you weigh in the more cerebral. I mean, Monica's extremely intelligent. In her songwriting and the songs that she sings and her attitude in the videos. So yeah. So but they're equal. Uh, and I limited it to three honorable mentions. The first one, this is gonna be controversial, is Janet Jackson, and the reason why I did not add in Janet Jackson, even though I had the Janet album uh, in college, and I loved come get the body that loves you, what'll I do, the instrumentals on there were great. Uh, but the reason why I mean Janet was my favorite album from the 90s for a while. But the reason why I did not put her on this list was that, you know, the music that she's really known for, is the bulk of the bulk of her success came in the 80s with Rhythm Nation and the Cat All Right with Me, Escapade, things of that nature. What have you done for me lately? Her absolute most groundbreaking work was in the 80s. And because of that, I thought I would be doing a disservice to her if, if, you know, if, if I were to put her in the 90s. If I were doing something about the 80s, I would definitely have Janet Jackson, Whitney Houston, uh, you know, I forgot the other one's name, but I would definitely have Janet Jackson, Whitney Houston, things of that nature. Uh, but you know, uh, her greatest stuff was in the '80s. I don't want to insult her legacy by putting her in the best music of the '90s. Even though I personally like her '90s stuff better, I'm not gonna put her best in the '90s. Her best is in the '80s as far as how her career will be judged when she dies. Her best, her most iconic stuff. Whenever you see something about Janet Jackson, it's about her '80s stuff. Her '90s stuff gets overshadowed, and you understand why when you see the high production values and things of that nature, and the quality of the music. Not necessarily the appeal, but the quality. And the second honorable mention goes to and I know I'm gonna catch flack for this. Alanis Morissette, I'm thinking more of "You Ought to Know," you know, and basically my my sisters did not listen to black music. Basically, I mean, we weren't when growing up. I mean, we weren't really allowed to listen to black music except for Michael Jackson. You know, because my dad thought black music was from the devil or whatever, so he would make us dance to Michael Jackson. And later on, my sister didn't like black music, so they would listen to alternative music. My sister, I got the Oasis album. I listened to it from my older sister's collection. She had the Oasis album. My older sister turned me on to uh, Spice Girls. Spice Girls, who is also not on this list, even though I like their music. Spice Girls. My older sister turned me on to Spice Girls, which I love, and basically they were big into uh, Oasis, Spice Girls. Later on, they got me into Get Up Kids, and so that's a part of my life too. I don't just listen to black music, because there are a lot of great white artists as well. But Alanis Morissette was a big part of my life. I'm sure that B96 was blaring Alanis Morissette as well. Uh, uh, but also maybe it was on V103. But and so I listened to a lot of Alanis Morissette. You know, she does not have a good voice, but her singing, her songs, the things she sings about, pretty much encompass the '90s. I was big into, like I said, I was big into alternative. My sisters turned me on to alternative, and so that was a big part of my identity. I was a grunge from eighth grade all the way through high school. You know, so and the last more set was just a big part of my life. In a certain, my sisters modeled themselves. They would dress like Alanis Morissette. They would talk like Alanis Morissette. She had such a great impact. And when she was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, my sister was like so like happy to see Alanis Morissette again playing God actually. So she was just her music identified Anybody who grew up in the '90s could identify with Alanis Morissette's music. Uh, and the last but not least, and an honorable mention goes to TLC. And the names of the group members of T-Boz, Left Eye, and Chili. I forgot when Left Eye died in a car crash, but you know, as far as I can tell, their career was derailed by the Tawana Brawley incident, in which you know, like them, like they got. I guess you could say they were set up, but they put a song on their album, trying to equate, trying to equate a hooker trying to falsely accuse a white man of rape with women's liberation, as if the two are equal, and and it didn't help that well whether you could be the most liberal white man in the world, or whatever, but you still don't like being falsely accused of rape, especially not by a black person, So that really, I mean, with liberalism, we're supposed to be led to believe that, you know, whatever you do has no consequences as long as it brings you pleasure. But what you do does have consequences, and that really that song on their original album really derailed their future success. And it didn't help that all of the songs on their original album sucked, and there was no appeal on their original album. Uh, but when their second album came along, which was just like, I mean, you know, it was, in my opinion, it was the best album ever made. Crazy Sexy Cool, the red album with the photograph with the white eyes. That was the best album ever made. I've never heard another album that was where like every song on the album was a solid gold hit. Even the interludes were solid gold hits, and you know, and you know, they were all hits. You know, the first album sucked, but Crazy Sexy Cool was like the best album ever made. And like the only way I could explain the fact that they didn't become more successful than they did was because of what happened with Tawana Brawley. Uh, and you know, it could be attributed to the death of Left Eye, because Left Eye was really the front runner and the most talented person in the group. Uh, but they had already fizzled out before Left Eye died. But so last honorable mention goes to TLC, and the reason why they didn't make it on the list was because they basically they basically they had the best album. Every hit on every song on the album, they had the best album ever made. Every song on that album was a hit, but each individual song, there was no individual song uh, on any of their. There's no individual song on Crazy Sexy Cool that can beat the songs of the five people I listed. Mariah Carey, Cut Close, Tamia, Mary J. Blige, Brandy, Monica. There's no one song on Crazy Sexy Cool that can beat the best songs from any of those groups. Uh, that includes Brandy and Monica. So you know, uh, TLC Crazy Sexy Cool was in a style of more of a commercial cool thing, and obviously Left Eye, I mean, sorry, T-Boz and Chili could not sing as well as anybody, is any of the five people on the list, including Mary J. Blige, Brandy, and Monica. T-Boz and Chili could not sing as well as them, and obviously Left Eye couldn't sing at all, and she was a pretty good rapper. But as far as talent, as far as talent goes, they were not as talented as anybody on my top five list. Even though they had the best album ever made, I still have the album, but I don't listen to it. But yeah, so that's my top five list for the women, and I'll get to the men uh, later on. I don't think I can do it today. So that's my top five list. Number one, Mariah Carey. Number two, Cut Close. Number three, Tamia. Number four, Mary J. Blige. Number five is a tie between Brandy and Monica. So let me know what you think. It's not gonna be all black artists. Like, I actually, like I said, I grew up with white artists because my parents thought that black artists were the devil music, the devil's music. So, uh, but even then, most of the white artists that my parents had me listen to were from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and very few from the 90s. Even Michael McDonald was more popular in the 80s. So, you know. Let me know what you think. Who do you think were the best singers of the female singers of the in groups of the 1990s? I left out rappers. Left Eye will probably be on my list of the greatest female rappers of the 1990s. So yeah, let me know what you think. Yeah. So have a nice day. Bye.